You're 28 years old. You just sold your first company for $300 million. Your bank account has more money than you can spend in 10 lifetimes. Most people would buy an island and retire. You do the opposite. You take every single dollar and bet it on two companies that everyone says will fail. One wants to build electric cars that don't suck. The other wants to launch rockets into space. Both industries are graveyards for billionaires. You don't care. This is how Elon Musk actually became Elon Musk. But we need to go back further. Before the rockets, before the headlines, before anyone knew his name. Pretoria, South Africa, 1984. You're a 13-year-old kid getting beaten up at school. You're small, awkward, terrible at sports. You spend lunch periods alone, reading science fiction novels about colonies on Mars. The other kids think you're weird. They're not wrong. You are weird. But you're also building something in your head, a blueprint for a different kind of life. Your home life isn't much better. Your father is difficult, to put it mildly. Years later, you'll describe him as one of the worst human beings you've ever met. So you escape into books. You read 10 hours a day, not just novels, encyclopedias, programming manuals, anything you can find. By age 12, you've taught yourself to code. You build a video game called Blaster and sell it to a computer magazine for $500. It's nothing special. The game is basic, but you prove something to yourself. You can create things that people will pay for. At 17, you make a calculated decision. South Africa has mandatory military service. You want no part of it. You also see the ceiling here. Limited opportunities, limited thinking. You need to get to America. That's where the future is being built. But you can't just fly to the States. Immigration laws won't allow it. So you find a loophole. Your mother was born in Canada. You have a path to Canadian citizenship. You take it. You land in Montreal with $2,000, a backpack, and a list of distant relatives you've never met. None of them want to house a random teenager who just showed up. You end up working odd jobs. You shovel grain bins in Saskatchewan for $18 an hour. The work is brutal. 120-degree heat. Dust everywhere. You're climbing through grain with a shovel, trying not to pass out. This is your introduction to North America. Romantic, right? But you're not there to be comfortable. You save money. You apply to universities. Queen's University accepts you. You study physics and economics, not because you love academia, because you're trying to understand how the world actually works. What makes economies grow? What technologies will matter in 50 years? During summers, you intern at a bank in Toronto. You're shocked by how little the executives understand about technology. They're making decisions about the future using frameworks from the past. Then you transfer to the University of Pennsylvania. 2 bachelor's degrees, physics and economics. You graduate and get accepted to a PhD program at Stanford. This is the dream, right? Prestigious university. Clear path to becoming a professor. You last 2 days. 2 days. Because it's 1995 and the internet is exploding. You see Netscape go public. You see Mark Andreessen on magazine covers. You realize the world is changing right now. Not in 5 years when you finish your PhD. If you stay in school, you'll miss it. So you drop out. You convince your brother Kimball to move to California with you. You have an idea for a company. It's called Zip2. The concept is simple. Help newspapers create online city guides with maps and directions. Remember, this is before Google Maps, before smartphones. You're basically building an internet yellow pages with directions. You and your brother rent a tiny office. You can't afford an apartment, so you sleep on the floor of the office. You shower at the YMCA. You have one computer. Your brother uses it during the day for sales calls. You code at night. For months, this is your life. Ramen noodles. No social life, just work. Investors think you're crazy. Newspapers don't understand the internet. But slowly, you start getting clients. The New York Times signs on, then the Chicago Tribune. The company is growing, but there's a problem. The venture capitalists who funded you don't trust a 20-something with no business experience to run the company. They bring in a professional CEO. They push you aside. You hate it. You fight them on every decision. The company culture becomes toxic, but the business works. 1999, Compaq buys Zip2 for $307 million. Your share is $22 million. You're 27 years old. You just won the lottery. Most people would stop here. You don't. You take almost the entire $22 million and you start another company. It's called X.com. Your vision is simple but radical. One app for all financial services, banking, investments, insurance, everything. People think you've lost your mind. Banking is heavily regulated. The industry is dominated by giants. What makes you think you can compete? You don't care. You see the inefficiency. You see the future. March 2000. X.com merges with a competitor called Confinity. They have a product called PayPal. The merger is a disaster from day one. Two companies, two visions, two CEOs. The board is split. Employees are taking sides. You're pushing for X.com to be the brand. The other side wants PayPal. The fighting is constant. Then you go on vacation. Your first real vacation in years. You fly to Australia with your wife. While you're gone, the board holds a secret meeting. They vote you out. You land back in California. You're no longer CEO. You're furious, betrayed. But you're still the largest shareholder. The company keeps the PayPal name. You swallow your pride. The business grows explosively. July 2002, PayPal goes public. Market cap hits $1 billion. 3 months later, eBay acquires PayPal for $1.5 billion. Your share is 180 million. You're 31. You just made generational wealth twice. Again, most people would retire, buy an island, play golf. Not you. You take 100 million and you split it. 50 million goes to SpaceX. Your goal is to make humanity multiplanetary. Experts say you're delusional. Rockets are built by governments, not entrepreneurs. The physics is too hard. The costs are too high. You don't care. 70 million goes to Tesla. You didn't start Tesla. Two engineers named Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning did. But the company is struggling. They need capital. You lead the Series A funding round. You become chairman. You're betting that electric cars are the future. Everyone thinks you're wrong. EVs are slow. They're ugly. They're toys for environmentalists. The auto industry has a century head start. How will you compete? Both bets are insane. Either one could bankrupt you. You're doing both simultaneously. 2008. The economy collapses. Tesla is burning cash. SpaceX has had 3 rocket failures in a row. You're down to your last few million. You have a choice. Save one company, let the other die. You can't save both. Instead, you scrape together every dollar you have left. You borrow money from friends. Christmas 2008. You're dividing your final cash between SpaceX and Tesla, literally deciding which gets to survive another month. Then SpaceX's 4th launch succeeds. Falcon 1 reaches orbit. NASA notices. They award you a $1.6 billion contract. Tesla closes a funding round on Christmas Eve. Both companies survive by days, not weeks, days. The next decade is a war on every front. Production hell at Tesla. Explosion after explosion at SpaceX. The media calls you a fraud. Short sellers bet billions that you'll fail. You sleep on the factory floor. You work 100-hour weeks. You have public breakdowns. But Falcon 9 starts landing boosters. Tesla Model S becomes Motor Trend Car of the Year. The companies survive, then they thrive. Today, SpaceX dominates the launch industry. Tesla is the most valuable car company on Earth. You're the richest person in the world. But here's what people miss. The money was never the goal. The goal was always the mission. Making life multiplanetary. Accelerating sustainable energy. You risked everything. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. Most people wouldn't risk comfort for greatness. You risked obliteration for a chance to change the species. That's the difference between winning the game and changing it entirely. You could have stopped at any point. After Zip2, after PayPal, after becoming a 100 millionaire in your 30s. You could have declared victory and spent the rest of your life on a beach. But that was never the game you were playing. Most people optimize for safety. You optimize for impact. Most people diversify to protect their wealth. You concentrated everything into 2 moonshot bets that had no rational chance of working. The difference between Elon Musk and everyone else isn't intelligence. It isn't work ethic. It's risk tolerance married to conviction. You were willing to go to zero, completely to zero, for a shot at building something that mattered. That's not advice for most people. It's probably terrible advice for most people. But it's the only way the impossible becomes possible. You didn't become Elon Musk by being smart. You became Elon Musk by being willing to lose everything for a vision nobody else could see.